lost the turnover battle by 4. You couldn't beat a determined Girl Scout troop if you lose a turnover battle 4-0. So know what wins football games. I think we talk about some of those big balls. Some of that is frankly, I think I'm culpable on some of that because we couldn't generate pressure. They just they changed some things inside, turned it into a mosh pit a little bit. Yeah. So some of our clever games got stacked up. We don't have quite the punch in there that we've had, and we didn't have a way to threaten the edge with. So a couple of those balls, I thought they were able to hold the ball. Yeah. Having said that, they get us a big wheel and a zone coverage that shouldn't be a play. That the first one it's a blitz. We got 7-man pressure. There needs to be pressure, and there wasn't. Mm-hmm. So don't be surprised that a good receiver and a good quarterback get one in on you. But again, we give up a score on offense, yeah. and we turn the ball over again in scoring position. Yeah. That's all they get in the second half. Yeah. So I thought the defense. I thought we battled back. We were obviously they were determined to try to run the ball, and we were given as good as we got. And I thought Kelvin in the second half started to play like a little bit more like we think he should yeah. play. But one of his long suits is his ability to throw the ball. So I was a little disappointed in some of his throws, given that opportunity to get out there, because that's what you live for as a player. You come in off the bench. Your starter's hurt. You got a chance to go out there and make a statement. We're in a situation where what you do well has a chance. So as I say, I do take responsibility. My job is to have those guys on the edge, and you could hear those guys. They felt like they were out of sync. They were pressing to be edge players, and you could see that. I thought some of the tackling in the first half, where guys were kind of, shit, am I in the right place? Am I in the right? And they wouldn't pull the trigger on it. In the second half, they said, heck with it, and they pulled the trigger. Yeah. And it didn't always work, but heck, it worked most of the time. And they couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't keep drives together. So again, they've got to, lean forward. You always got to lean forward when you play this game. You can't lean back. You can't get thrown back on your heels ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I saw Angel not limping into the locker room. Obviously, it wasn't a game shake-off. What's the status?
I don't know. They don't think it's horrible, but it's the same ankle that was bothering him before. Okay. So it's going to be tender for a while, but I don't think it's not one of those terrible high ankle things that never get better. So.
Did you get the feeling did you get a good feeling coming in before this game, like even in the pregame, that the team was ready to play? Or?
Well, I thought we were. I thought we would play on the edge. But again, give our opponents some credit. They were playing well. Yeah. And we needed to play really well to be competitive in this game. With some of the stuff going, that's who we are. And we weren't who we are. We weren't that poised, precise, detailed outfit. We were, I was in the wrong defense, or I got turned loose on the blitz, but I fell down, or oops, and they weren't in there. So
there were a couple of loose balls when they had a shot, you had a shot, and they seemed to always get them. Was it one of those things where if you got one of those plays back, you could have turned it around somewhere?
Well, I think you takeaways are a big deal. Like you say, if you don't turn the ball over, you've got a chance in that game. That's a different game. If you don't turn the ball over, take 13 points out, that's a little bit, that finish is a little bit interesting. Yep. But we do, and give them credit. They're lined up again in a different defense than we've seen, but something we understand what it is. We're well prepared for. They had that challenge of preparing they had 8 days to get ready for it, and they did, and they played really well. They won their share.
Taking Terry, did they necessarily take Terry out of the game, or did they find a way to slow him down?
Well, it was just like I say, they stacked up that perimeter a little bit, but they were also inside. It was thick. We didn't have three techniques. We had two eyes and twos, and it was pretty thick. Now, having said that, there were yards there. It was going to take. You have to be patient. You had to be, and you had to be consistent in your execution. And if we'll do that, if we'll be consistent in our execution, not have the negative plays, we had procedural penalties. We had, as I say, you have 4 turnovers. You don't have to keep talking much after that.
Coach, it seemed like you had a lot of passing plays that were just going off the receiver's fingertips. Is that just a lack of timing? That
well, I think Kelvin, Kelvin, that's a lot of meaningful reps for him. He hasn't had that many meaningful reps, but that's got to be his long suit. And because you saw what he was when he was feeling it and staying on tempo, throwing the ball with not aiming it, throwing it. He looks like we like the guy we talk about a lot. But not nearly the consistency with his throwing, just like there wasn't consistency at left guard, like there wasn't consistency at fullback, like there wasn't consistency in the head coach.
Any correlation with Angel going out and then the turnovers start to show? I mean, all 4 turnovers were when he's out.
Yeah,
And,
well, I think with Tevin, clearly, that's. We're trying to get his legs in the game. We think Tevin is as talented a guy as we have on our football team when he's touching the ball. But when you're under stress and that defense was good enough to stress that it's not practice anymore.
Yep.
And some of that precision, whether when you're operating around the mesh right behind the line of scrimmage, it gets exciting. And that's part of that. He's not a veteran guy. He's not an experienced guy. And they're coming across. It was
I think it's the last 3 games, no turnovers, and then Angel leaves the game, then 4.
Well, a couple of them were throws where we're taking a shot and we lose the fight for the ball. We got one-on-one with a corner. The safety's out of the middle of the field. We got what we want. Just like they had that same thing with us a couple times and protected it and got it thrown. And we had the same thing. I mean, we probably shouldn't have. We shouldn't have been able to get that matchup in that situation in the game on that down distance, but we got it, and their guy whooped us and made the play. So give them some credit. It's not a vacuum.
But we come at a good time.
Last week would have. How about this week? I would have had it by today. That would have been better than next week. But yeah. We can use it because we're. It's been. We started in August and we played 8 straight games, and how many guys are out of the mix right now that we have a chance. The good news is they're healing. The good news is we're getting a chance to get those guys back out there. As far as I know, I don't think we had anything devastating happen today, with the exception of Angel, and I don't think that's horrible. But there's some. We had to be successful today. We had to be especially precise, and we had to be especially poised, and we had to be especially opportunistic, and we were none of those things.
Yeah.
And that's on me.
Coach, what about Colby Miller? He came in today, 16 tackles on the day. Hadn't played much before this year, and now he's playing a key role for you.
Well, he's the last guy standing on that line, and good for him that he's productive. Now, obviously, he's gonna, we're gonna go back and look at that, and some of those early challenges we had were him settling into that role. He has a couple opportunities there early on that get away from him. So he plays in the middle of that defense. He's going to have some opportunities to touch it. And, if we, as I've said, as long as we let Colby play within himself and don't ask him to do things that are outside of his physical profile, he can be productive for us.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.